Hello, welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. This video will have some light language and some inflow messages that I'm tuning into the collective of my higher consciousness that I pull through in my own little word play and word geometry. And we'll start with that, and then maybe I'll do a second video on communication and how that is shifting for a lot of us, but we'll see where this goes. So the light language is not necessarily meant to be understood on a linear basis. It's just meant to be felt. And so taking a nice deep breath in and a nice exhale. Going into the heart space. Makoshea wahae no kunu o shishi ni kwae ne te pae kohe ne. Kua he sheshe kini awa koti ano ko wae tushte ne kene. Kune wa awa hat it ishtu koe ma ahet ishtu koe ni ahat niki ishte makua. Ua he ne shewa koe hane te shien no kumo koe ana. And there is a transition that is happening, and many are feeling this phase. And before we lock into the next phase of development, we are being invited to heed that which it is that is incomplete, so that we may complete it. And on this heels of incompleteness, we follow in the footsteps of a complete energy overhaul. We are being invited to complete old cycles and let them go, so that we may let ourselves go into a new way of everything. I'm seeing communication, interacting, receiving information, exchanging information. Ke wae shi no kuni au hakut ustetine kua hae stawa kone. And as we allow ourselves to let go, we begin to expand, we begin to feel more comfortable, we begin to feel more relaxed. And in this state of relaxation, we find ourselves opening up to bigger statements. We find ourselves making more creative statements. We find ourselves, I'm seeing so many different things, reinstating traditions long gone by that we may have lost or waved goodbye to, for these old ancient lineages have been long since forgotten. So we play with this for a moment, for we are being called to let go during this transition of that which no longer fits, and yet at the same time revive ancient traditions that we may have, I'm hearing that got lost between the cracks. And now as we move forward, we begin to reconfigure and reevaluate some of these lost portals, these lost communication bands, these lost abilities to band together in the form of communication and quantum communication that allows us to communicate with these lost translations. I'm being called to stop just for a second and play with that. So essentially, a lot of our ancient traditions that were passed down, when those lineages or eras were lost, let's say to the Great Flood, or let's say to just being built on top of, and we've had whole civilizations that what I'm hearing is we still have yet to uncover. But these civilizations and these ancestral pieces, and I'm seeing literally A, B, C, D, E, F, G, pieces of the alphabet, alchemy, they're within us. So what I'm being shown is a lot of the 21st century, a lot of the things that are habitual that we've grown up with, let's say in the last 100 years, okay? Many of those traditions are no longer transitioning with us. They're not necessary anymore. And that can even be ones, what I'm being shown, that we've recently acquired. And I'm being called to bring up stuff from our past. And this is a play on words. Many of us are being called to let go of the stuff from our past. That has to do with limiting beliefs, feelings of insecurity and self-doubt, letting go of shame or blame that we maybe picked up from our parents, or worries about the future that we may have adapted because our grandparents went through the Great Depression or were involved in world wars, and we could go on and on and on. And what we're being invited to do right now, there's so many things that are coming through. Ground, get back to our roots, get back to Mother Earth, and get back to family traditions that are useful. And what I'm hearing is the traditions of the storytellers. So the shamans and the indigenous peoples and many of our ancestors, no matter where we hail from, we all had ways of passing along our generational stories. Yet what I'm being shown is some of us have adapted stories that are not helpful for our future generations. They're stories of what I'm seeing are placeholders, meaning they were, I'm being called to talk about words. Sometimes we use the word I do that a lot, or like. So those types of words, there's a name for those words. I can't think of them right now, but what I'm being shown is placeholders. Like they just kind of filled in the extra space. And a lot of times we've been taught or we've learned through habitual programming about a lot of space fillers that are no longer necessary. So once we let all that go, it opens up space to then create space and to then fill that space with more of what we really truly can benefit from. And some of this includes us bringing up ancient memories, not just memories from our past. So it's like let go and let in, let go and let in. And so there will be many things that are being discovered, and that's a play on words. There will be many things that are being discovered. There have been many things about our ancient ancestry that have been discovered that have not been necessarily brought forward. I'm being called to talk about this briefly. When there is something discovered and it happens to create a ripple in the community that's doing the discovering, number one. Number two, when there's a discovery that feels big, that creates a ripple. And so there's a lot of play with this. Those of us who have connections to these particular pieces of ancient heritage, ancient past, it's almost like there's a light bulb that goes off or a trigger that goes off in our bodies. It's a little bit like the 100th monkey, because those monkeys have learned how to do something new. The minute that they learn about it, it's available for the collective. And that's just one perspective to kind of share why some people are starting to remember things that have been forgotten. And I'm being called to give an example on this. Connections to ancient Egypt, connections to Mesopotamia, connections to places in the Grand Canyon, I'm hearing a type of Indian Chapo Indians. I'm just hearing that there's a lot of discoveries that have been made, and we're feeling it in our DNA, in our lineage, almost as if it's time to reawaken inside of us certain elements that maybe we have forgotten. And what I'm hearing are ancient mysteries. So some people might be having dreams about things that are in their lineage they didn't realize that were there. Some people are having these talents or languages come up that they didn't know that they could have access to or speak. Certain things are ready to come online. And certain things that we thought were important, that we had been taught that were important, are no longer relevant for our growth. And so those are the things that we're being called to let go of and realize, bring back to life certain medicinal things that have been forgotten, certain ways to work with the land that have been forgotten, certain languages, which I keep bringing up, certain ways of creating technology. That's another video in itself, because this has something to do with the future, but we'll come back to that later. And we harp on this subject currently, for there are many subjects that are being spilled into the network of interconnectivity, which you might refer to as the internet. Yet we are being called to remind everybody of their own internet of connectivity, their own cones, their own inner source of communication with the quantum world, with the quantum field, with the field that we are all part of. For many of the stories and programs that have been written in the recent future were merely put in place to take up space, to use as a cover, one might say, to cover up the innate and to steer humanity in a direction of disorder, dysfunctioning harmonics, which are not harmonic or harmonious. This is a play on words. I'm seeing hormonal, like they create this agitation in the body and create imbalanced hormones. And this is a big separate, this can be utilized in so many different from so many different angles. So this disharmonious influctuation that has been pumped into our memory, meant to be embedded in how it is that we interact with our future, in addition to how it is embedded into, okay, so I'll be specific. Let's say some programs that we've been taught recently that are important, like you need to focus on this. This is part of who we are now. Not necessarily. What I'm hearing is a lot of this is very temporary. It's very stagnant. It's not really expansive. And it's creating a lot of confusion. And again, it's space holder. It's taking up space for actual information that we could be utilizing for our true expansion and expression. And you guys can fill in the blanks on maybe some of the things that you've been recognizing that maybe aren't as expansive as they're being touted, is the word that I'm hearing. I'm seeing people shouting at the tops of hilltops, listen to me, this is important, over here. And as our attention turns in that direction, it covers up or takes the space of something else that we could be focusing our attention and inner attention in. So let us get back to the internet and recognize that our whole body is a cellular matrix of the ability to create. And if we are creating patterns and creating our reality, then why would we want to continue to take up space when it is not truly creating expansive expression? It is merely creating an ideology that is sold as an idea or a confirmation. I'm hearing conformity, that we then purchase or value or take with us or build on under the idea or ideology of what I'm hearing is false imprinting. Ooh. So we're going to play with that for a moment. Because if I say false imprinting, well, how can it be false if it's imprinted? That makes it real. If I remember something happening one way, because I was influenced to remember it that way, that's an example of false imprinting. And there's more, but I'm being kind of given a thumbs up on that. Like, that's an okay description of what's being expressed right now. So these are some of the things that we are being encouraged to let go of. We're being encouraged to see them for what they were and recognize that they were, I'm hearing what they were. They no longer are. They no longer hold the same space for us, for we have outgrown these ideologies, no matter how new they may seem. And some of the old philosophies, and I mentioned this in a previous video, such as grounding, are being reconnected with, because these are the truths. These are the foundations that have been overlaid upon or laid over so that we would step over them and not necessarily notice what was right under our feet the entire time. What I'm hearing are beautiful distractions, and we could use the television as an example, or celebrities, and that are telling us things that we need to focus on, that are important, that are really not substantial. They are only substantiated by a story that is told to us that we then value and build and co-create around and then support it. The more support that we give something, an idea or person, the more we do that as a collective, the stronger it becomes. Yet, if that is that strength is based on a false, what did I call it earlier? Embedding, that doesn't have the same sustenance, right, or sustainability, in order to keep it as a rung in the ladder. So what I'm seeing is it's weak, and so it doesn't hold strong foundation. And we aren't here, or we're not in the space necessarily of wanting to create a weak foundation. We want to let go of that which was created in order to make us weak, or in order to weaken our senses, or in order to establish a false reality that would give value to an idea or ideology or reality that was for the purpose of, I'm hearing, for financial gain. And this has to do with certain corporations. It has to do with commercials and advertising, and certain, let's say, products in the medical field that really aren't based off of, I'm hearing they're just based off of hype. They're not necessarily beneficial for us. I could go on and on and on. So fill in the blanks. We bring this up because much is being brought up right now. Much is being revealed, and in the face of this change, we face many different collaborations and co-creative, I'm hearing problems, and this is the play on words. It may seem problematic to face our fears or to face our problems, yet when we turn and look and see them for what they really are, we recognize that, oh, I just went into so many different layers here. We recognize that we have changed, and what we face now are challenges. For in the change, in order for us to grow, we must face our fears. We must turn and see what it is that we no longer wish to see, rather than turn away from them and pretend to be free when it is merely okay, so I'm being shown that some people think if they ignore it, it'll go away. And in some cases it will. But I'm also being shown that we have to see it and acknowledge it and recognize it. In order to really be free of it, we can't avoid whatever that might be. Yet that doesn't mean that we face it and stay there. What I'm being shown is it takes courage to confront certain aspects of our reality that we don't necessarily want to confront, but without being confrontational about it, because the energy behind this next phase that we are being initiated into is what I'm hearing. I'm just speaking in flow right now. Is an ability, or gives us an ability to be stronger, and in order to stabilize what it is that we truly do wish we want to see. So we are the key holders. Well, many of us are, and we are meeting other key holders who also hold the key that gives us the ability to see more clearly, to move through this new reality in a quantum way. So I'm being shown that certain people are being called to kind of cluster together, and it's kind of like Ghostbusters. Are you the key holder? And we're meeting these people who hold the other key. And together we're going in and we're combining our keys to open these combination locks. This is a code because it is involving our DNA. So I'm going to come back in and tie this all in. The message behind this is we're uncovering and cracking codes at a very high pace. We're revealing things about our past that was covered up. And this is in a variety of ways. Some of it was intentionally covered up, and some of it just happened to be covered up because it was buried underneath sand in the desert, for example. So this is in all aspects of the reveal, the great reveal. And while this is happening simultaneously, what's happening inside of us is more is coming up to be revealed also. And as we acknowledge all of these things that are being uncovered, and we let go of all of that stuff, we end up moving at a faster pace, and we end up coming together within certain collectives at exactly the right time. And we show up with our key, whatever that looks like, and we work together in order to create true harmony, in order to create the true expansion that we want to create. And those bubbles that have been popped, those space holders, I would love to draw this out on a whiteboard, but I'm seeing all these bubbles. And let's say we have love, compassion, joy, and then the center bubble is, boy, what subject should we go with that? Mixed in with all of that, let's say, is fashion. No offense against you fashionistas or fashion men and women out there, all walks of human. That little bubble we thought was really important, and because of that, we started to judge ourselves based off what we're wearing and what somebody else is wearing. And oh, this particular celebrity said that you can't wear this if you look like that, and you can't wear white at this time of year, and so on and so forth. That space holder, was it really part of our foundation of who we really are at the core? Not really. It's a great expression. We can express ourselves through fashion, but it isn't the juice. It isn't the rung on the ladder. It's only an outward expression of where that foundation begins. So, I could go into so many different layers here. I was using fashion as kind of a neutral place to go, but we could fill that in with so much more, right? It could be whatever. All of these bubbles of what we're told was part of our history and what's really important, we're starting to realize maybe that isn't what's really important. So it's all about getting back to our roots. Simultaneously, while we're having these understandings, we are activating within each other through using our key and not being afraid to open the door. And what I'm hearing is, Carrie, what key are you talking about? And I'm going to go into flow about that. Wrapped within our DNA, within these tubes of information, we could call it, that are encapsulated within our own individual blueprint and language, holds many keys. And based on the vibration, we might call it, that we are holding at any given moment, we are then given those keys, or better spoken, we remember that we have those keys, and we are then invited, or we open to utilizing that to then extrapolate information or create. So what I'm seeing is these keys they can be anything. It could be language, it can be sound, it can be mathematics, it can be a memory of our childhood, it could be playing music, it could be whatever it is. They will open when we need them to. What I'm hearing is when we knock. So we might have been asking for something, and then all of a sudden it just appears. And it could be something as simple like us going, oh, if I just would do this, this would happen. That's a key. That's an aha. That is boy, there's so much more to it though. I'm also seeing, they're showing me the gene keys, which I'm not really familiar with, but one of my best friends, Candace, is really very familiar with gene keys. You might want to play with that. But that's a play on words too, like the keys to the genes. And I'm going to use the FOXP2 gene as an example. Years ago, I had been getting all of these downloads and pieces of information coming in about the FOXP2 gene. And I was getting synchronicities about Fox and the throat chakra. And at the time, I was singing and having all of these sounds kind of bubbling up, and highs and lows, and I don't consider myself a singer at all. And I recognized that the universe was trying to tell me, look, you are activating this particular gene, or maybe humanity is, or maybe a group of you are activating this. And so I was called to look up the FOXP2 gene, and simultaneously, when I started to dig into that information that Spirit had shown me, I then came across, lo and behold, I think Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden talking about the FOXP2 gene. So it was just further validation that that was what was coming online for me. And what my guidance team is basically saying is that's a key, right? All of those are keys. The aha that I had about it, the synchronicity that I had about it, and to go deeper, the awakening of that particular part of my DNA that came online. It took something to click into place for me to activate that. And part of what that something was is it took me being receptive, being open, allowing it, and letting go of all my judgment around singing, around sound, around what I sounded like. And once I let that go, this is an example of what I said in the beginning of this video, letting go of old beliefs, letting go of old thought patterns, letting go of fears, and so on and so forth. When I fully let that go, it created space for me to feel like I could be more expansive, like I could be more of myself. And essentially, I wasn't necessarily doing anything except letting go. And in that, the keys were shown to me, and I activated or keyed into, right, a certain combination of frequencies that allowed me to enhance or further activate my own gifts, if that makes sense. And that's what's happening to a lot of us right now. A lot of us are having these activations. We're being gifted these opportunities, and this allows us to feel more spacious. It allows us to find these deep connections that many of us have been longing for with ourselves, and also, our brothers and sisters as well. So I'm going to end on that note. The other key to this is knocking, asking. We've all heard, asking you shall receive. Part of this is about us asking for activation. I ask for magic every day. I ask for synchronicities. I ask to be shown whatever it is I need to see to keep me on my highest vibrational timeline or path. I ask to be shown people to connect with. And this isn't always something I was very good at, and sometimes I'm still not good at it. But I do find the more that I ask, the more that I receive. And I have to let go of what I think that's going to look like, or what I think it is that I want. A dear friend of mine, my dear friend Kat, said, "Why don't you ask for that or something better?" And I totally use that all the time now. Universe, I would like to see this or something better. And we could play with so many different things here. So I'm going to end on that note and just invite everybody to recognize there's a lot of shifts happening. Just because you aren't seeing it doesn't mean it's not happening. We're really being called to work within ourselves, work on our own self-growth and renewal. We are getting tons of help from the universe. And the reason my guides have been so big lately on getting grounded is because just like the keys are being activated inside of us, the keys are also being activated in the earth. And those keys can also be musical notes. I used the FOXP2 gene, musical notes. As we move up in the scale, we create a bigger symphony. We create a more harmonious symphonic resonance that then ripples out and has an impact on everyone we come into contact with, and also on Mother Earth. So I'm going to end on that note. In love and light, guys. Namaste.